video is to explain about DNA.
Are we splitting DNA?
No, we're explaining it. We're not splitting it. Well, they split it when they did the tests, but that's how DNA testing works. Now, can I ask you a question?
What?
Hold on. Let me explain. DNA is tested by cutting it down into different strands. And these strands are all different lengths, according to the enzyme used to cut it. So if the DNA at the crime scene matches the lengths of the DNA at the crime scene match the lengths of the DNA of the standard reference sample, then it is a match. And according to statistics, that person was there and did it. How is that for an explanation?
Very nice.
Good.
Deoxyribonucleic acid, otherwise known as DNA, has recently become the spectacle of forensic science. DNA has been solving cases for quite some time now. Recently, it's been used to help solve murder crimes, such as the one of Debra Sue Carter.
Justice would not have been served in the case of Debra Sue Carter had it not been for the advent of DNA. 2 innocent men would have been killed by the government. The government which loves us.
We dug through the archives. It's dark down here, but we could not ascertain what sort of DNA test they used specifically. That it was one of the early DNA tests.
It was a gruesome slaying. Debra Sue Carter, a 21-year-old barmaid, was found on the floor of her garage apartment in December of 1982 in Ada, a town of 16,000 people southeast of Oklahoma City.
She'd been raped and words were written on her nude body in ketchup and fingernail polish.
5 years later, 2 men were charged with murder in the case. They were well known in Ada. One was a junior high school science teacher and a coach, Dennis Fritz. The other, Ronald Williamson, was a local hero who had played minor league baseball for the Oakland Athletics and New York Yankees.
Scientific evidence helped convict them. 17 hairs found on the victim's body and analyzed under a microscope. At their trials in 1988, an expert from the State Crime Laboratory tested that some of the hairs were an exact match to Fritz and the others to Williamson. The expert also said that semen found on the body could have come from them.
Could have. Fritz received a life sentence, and Williamson was sentenced to die. At one point, Williamson came within 5 days of being executed. 5 days!
They were freed by newer scientific evidence. DNA analysis that was not available then was now available. They showed that the hairs and semen could not have come from either of the 2 men.
DNA tests were done by 5 laboratories, including one at Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, the same agency that had done the microscopic tests in the 1980s. Now, the labs say that the DNA matches that of a convicted kidnapper who testified against the 2 men. He testified against them, and he did it.
Defense lawyers say the Oklahoma case calls into question unproven science that has led to criminal convictions for a century. The men are the 61st and 62nd inmates in the nation to be exonerated by DNA evidence, according to the Justice Department. Williamson is the 78th person in the country since 1970 to be cleared after being on death row, says the Death Row Penalty Information Center and Anti-Death Penalty.
And he came within 5 days of being wrongly executed. The evidence against Fritz and Williamson included the testimony of 2 jailhouse informers and a witness who was a felon. One informer said that she had heard Williamson threaten to kill his mother as he had killed Miss Carter.
A witness at the bar where Miss Carter worked said he had seen Williamson there the night of the killing. The prosecutors made much of a dream that Williamson said he had had about the murder.
He had had about the murder.
This case had all the building blocks of a wrongful conviction, Barrett said. Unproven science, a jailhouse snitch, a dream, and a tainted eyewitness.
That witness is now the suspect. The DNA tests show that the genetic material of the witness, Glenn Gore, 38 at the time, matches the semen. Gore, who was serving 3 40-year sentences for kidnapping and other charges unrelated to Miss Carter's murder, walked away from a prison work crew.
He has not been charged in the murder.
Fritz, 49, who became something of a jailhouse lawyer, plans to move back to Kansas City to be with his mother and to spend time with his daughter, 25.
I've got some student loans to pay off. They've been charging me interest all this time,
Fritz said. Williamson's brown hair has turned gray. He has been hospitalized for a pre-existing mental illness, bipolar disorder.
He said that playing the guitar made his life tolerable in the state's death row cells, which are underground.
Underground.
He said he considered suicide before his new trial was ordered in 1997.
I am getting out of this state,
Williamson said.
A lot of people still think we must have been guilty, or we wouldn't have been charged.
One day, the two men visited with an aide to Governor Frank Keaton seeking compensation for the time they had served.
Compensation. Served. Williamson's lawyer, Barrett, said that most Oklahomans favor the death penalty. All the more since the bombing.
Many years ago, on a Monday, that killed 168 people at the federal building here.
The state has executed 15 inmates since 1990, at least.
When executions resumed after a 24-year gap, it has about 150 prisoners on death row out of 3,500 nationwide.
That's impressive. With one case, people think it could just be a mistake.
Barrett said.
But with 78 cases, they start to see that there's an epidemic of wrongful convictions. The error rate in the death penalty is not one that would be acceptable in most people's lines of work.
There's a hill with some stairs on the other side of it.
I just want to point out the irony of me wearing a Ferrari jacket and driving a 91 Honda Accord. I'm a tiger!
Ah! Ah! It's definitely one for the outtakes reel.
Woohoo!
Oh my gosh, look at that car, it's an elf.
It's an elf? Oh
It
my
had elf
God.
ears and everything.
Too bad I was busy driving and didn't see it. And there's Meat's Corner. I'll be playing there Friday night. You should all go. Starts at 7 with a band called Threads of 3. They're good. Excellent band. Acoustic.
Oh, there it goes, right there.
So I was driving to school one morning. I get to the 13th Street entrance and, I go to turn left. But there's these kids walking across the entrance, There's one on foot and one biking. So, I just say, screw it. So I rev my engine, which is awesome. I drive stick shift so I can rev my engine without going anywhere. So I'm coming into the entrance. I rev my engine really loud. And one of the kids runs away screaming. He says, "Ah!" It was hilarious.
That's a bridge.
It's so pretty.
It's a pretty cool bridge, I mean, you gotta admit, that's a pretty cool bridge. Oh, she's got a disc tray in the back of her truck. And here's our pink poles. That's the city bus. Their window says, "Bite me." Oh, look, there's the bus. They don't have to wait much longer. They used to be at Brahms. Lunchtime. Oh, the mattress and clock store went out. If you're into that kind of thing.